Okay, Shalom Israel. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and Shalom to the elect. We living in some beautiful times, man. This is the year of prophecy, man. And as we end the year, as Esau calls this is actually considered the third quarter. All right, and it's we in the month of October. And you know anything about the month of October, they normally have like their government shutdown and their re-elections, I believe, in the Senate, if I'm not mistaken. So this at this point in the year, man, and this is the time of Halloween, when more evilness is happening. So at this point in the year, man, a lot more things start to happen, man. You know, just to name a few things, you had to where last week a 5.9 earthquake hit Haiti. All right, and then you had the hurricane. I think it's Harold that hit parts of Cuba and Florida. Okay, you had just this week you had the U.S. supporter. I mean, a U.S. reporter go to Saudi Arabia, and they were saying how what actually wasn't that just this week, but it came out of how the U.S. believed that the reporter's dead. You know, so now it's causing frictions between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia. That's what this video I have up. It says Trump vows to punish Saudi Arabia if they kill missing journalists. Like I said, this journalist has been gone since October 2nd. Here it is the 13th, and Turkey is basically saying that it's confirmed that the Arabians, they did kill this American journalist. You know, so now it's not specifically confirmed yet, but Trump saying if it is confirmed that this journalist was killed, that they're gonna put sanctions on Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia was saying that they're gonna return and do even greater sanctions on America, man. So hey, we live in the time of prophecy. This is 2nd Ezra 15:1. Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord, and cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. So these prophecies are faithful, man, and they're true. It's prophesied that all those that were Confederate with Slocky, what's going on here? All those that were Confederate with America is going to turn their back upon them. As you see, let's see. All right, so this is from the site called the Globe and Mail Evening Update. Trump points to road killers and Khashoggi disappearance. Canada ready to reopen trade talks with China, Trudeau says. Slocky, I think I want to come back to that one. There's another one I actually had one to get first. Let me see. Bear with me. I got so many tabs open. Alright, I guess I'll start with this tab first, Salakia. I'm going to start with this one, CNN.com. Saudi Arabia is number 2 supplier of oil to the United States. The shale oil revolution vaulted the United States to the top of the world's production leaderboard. But that doesn't mean it can't afford to ignore Saudi Arabia's threat to retaliate against possible sanctions related to the disappearance of Washington Post journalist Jamal Khashoggi. The United States still imports 7.9 million barrels of foreign crude per day, and a sizable chunk comes from Saudi Arabia, the world's largest oil exporter. Despite soaring U.S. oil production, the United States still imported 876,000 barrels of crude a day from Saudi Arabia in July, according to the most recent government statistics. Even though imports from Saudi Arabia have declined sharply from 10 years ago, the kingdom remains the number two supplier to the United States behind only Canada. So here it is. If they do decide to go ahead with the sanctions on Saudi Arabia, they really hurting themselves, man. Which they do. Hey, man, they do a good job at hurting themselves, man. Like, for example, with Trump, trying to go neck and neck with the tariffs with China. All right, when China, they're the, I believe they're the amongst the top. Yeah, they are amongst the top countries as far as the world's leading exporters go, man. Everything in America is, well, you see made in China. A bed made in China, this made in China, that made in China. The cars are made in China, man. So they good at shooting themselves in the foot, so to speak. So hey, man, we can if this does continue, we're gonna see inflations on oil prices, which that's basically gonna push everything else up. Because you need oil. As far as transportating the food to the supermarkets, goods on trucks. Which makes me think about Brazil. How the president over there just a few months back, they actually had to lower the fuel prices because the truckers were on strike. So this has a huge impact. We can just speculating how this could have a huge impact on the American economy. It says even though imports from Saudi Arabia have declined sharply from 10 years ago, the kingdom remains the number two supplier to the United States behind only Canada. Saudi oil represents about 11% of total imports, roughly on par with 1973, the year the kingdom sent oil prices spiking by launching an embargo that crippled the American economy. And this actually led me to the see. Led me to this article. Because really, Saudi Arabia can cripple America's economy, man. It says Saudi Arabia oil is a powerful weapon, but using it has big risk. So it says 45 years ago, Saudi Arabia and its allies cut off oil supplies to the United States over its support for Israel. Oil prices quadrupled, delivering a huge shock to the global economy. Now the kingdom is facing threats of punishment over the unexplained disappearance of a Washington Post journalist, Jamal Khashoggi, and is talking of retaliation if America imposes sanctions. A leading Saudi commentator has even hinted that oil could once again be used as a weapon. Writing in a personal capacity, Turki Adakil, generated manager of the Saudi-owned Al Arabiya news channel, warned on Sunday that the United States would stab its own economy to death and oil prices would soar to $200 a barrel if Washington imposes sanctions on Riyadh. As I said before, if this happens, man, hey, man, that means everything's basically going to be shut down. That's inflation on everything. Because if it costs more to bring oil here, all right, that means it's going to cost more. Products is going to cost more. All right, because now, hey, you still, these companies, they still going to have to make a profit, but now you got to pay the truckers to bring the products in at a higher price. So guess who's going to be hurt? The consumers. So it says oil prices were flat on Monday, suggesting markets have now dismissed the risk that Saudi Arabia could restrict supplies. Speaking in India, Saudi Energy Minister Khalid Al-Falih said Monday that the kingdom will continue to act as a central bank of the oil market to keep supply and demand in balance, according to media reports. But if the crisis over Khashoggi escalates, that commitment could crumble. It says oil experts, a rhetorical threat to withhold additional supplies could certainly exert some upward pressure on prices, said Halima Croft, global head of commodity strategy at RBC Capital Markets. And the kingdom could go further by slow walking output increases to make up to reduce Iranian supplies when U.S. sanctions take effect next month, Croft added. And this says Saudi Arabia filling the gap left by Iran because recently, um, you know, being that Iran and the U.S. is not work is they not in business anymore. Saudi Arabia is filling in that gap. That they were had once got the oil from Iran. So it says Saudi Arabia pumps about 10.5 million barrels of oil a day, according to OPEC data. It has previously said it is willing, along with Russia, to fill the gap created by the return of sanctions on Iran. We expect Iran's crude production to decline by nearly 1 million barrels per day. Said Bjornar Thunhagen, head of oil market research at Restart Energy. Saudi Arabia is the only country that has spare production capacity to compensate for such losses. All right, now I'm going to jump around a lot. Actually, I must jump to this part. Boom, then bust. You know, it says any move by the Saudis could to cut supply will push up global prices, hitting drivers in their pockets and further forcing up inflation that already threatens to take the shine off America's economy. Just going into what I was saying before. Such an oil shock would come at a very sensitive time. President Donald Trump has lashed out at OPEC, suggesting he's concerned about rising gasoline prices impacting next month's midterm elections. And concerns about inflation have helped send U.S. Treasury yields spiking, setting off a wave of turbulence on Wall Street. Under a scenario where the Saudis scale back production, it is likely this will feed through to higher prices. How much upside would depend on how much they cut production. Okay? Hey, so shit about to get real in a nutshell in America, man. You know? This is the time of Jacob's trouble we've been telling the people about. You know? Because if things go south or things go left, for America, how much more for the people at the bottom that depend on America, that depend on the on the supermarket to buy the food, that depend on all the goods, that America provides, man, to survive. Like I said, as far as food, supermarket, clothing, and so on and so forth, man. So hey, it's gonna get bad soon, man, real soon. I was just looking at a video yesterday, going into the coming this guy JP Morgan. His JP Morgan warns of an economic collapse and civil unrest. Hey, so it's gonna get bad soon. It's gonna get real bad soon, but it's beautiful because the Most High, hey, got a bone to pick with America. All right, this is Isaiah 47:1. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon, sit on the ground. Just going into that article, In a section of the article where it says boom, was what did it say? Boom bust, something like that. Let's see. Which article was it? Yeah, I'm all over the place. Which one was it? Oh, boom, then bust. You know, going into how the virgin daughter of Babylon is gonna sit in the dust. All right, going. It says, and further forcing up inflation that already threatens to take the shine off America's economy. You know, hey, so I advise brothers to keep watch on that, man. Come down, sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon, sit on the ground. There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans, for thou shalt no more be called tender and delicate. You know, and just looking into the history, Saudi Arabia and America, they've been doing business for years, man, since like the 30s, since the 1930s. You know, so that goes to show you, man, of how the Most High is gonna strip America bare. All right, he's gonna pull, as it is written in Obadiah, I believe. Just grab that in the book of Obadiah. All those that were at Confederate, says Obadiah 1 verse 7. All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. So if this happens, the ones they that eat their bread are those that were at confederacy with Babylon, China, which Trump is cutting the rope on that. He's cutting ties with that. Now Saudi Arabia soon enough. All right, and it was saying how Saudi Arabia is the number 2 importer or exporter of oil to the U.S. and the number 1 is Canada. All right, and in this, let me see if I can find it real quick. I think was it on this one? Maybe it was another one. It speaks about. See, bear with me. Okay, and Canada is the number 1 exporter of oil to the U.S. Now, since Canada ready to reopen trade talks with China, so everybody, all those the scriptures is coming to play, man. All those that were at Confederate thee, that were basically Confederate with thee, they're gonna leave you, man. Ottawa is ready to reopen talks with China on a possible free trade deal now that Canada has secured continued access to the all-important U.S. market and the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says in an exclusive interview with the Globe and Mail, Mr. Trudeau said the U.S. put forward a proposal during the USMCA negotiations that will have restricted Canada's ability to negotiate trade agreements with China, but that section was watered down in the final agreement. Last week, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi told his Canadian counterpart, Foreign Affairs Minister Chrystia Freeland, that Beijing hopes Ottawa will advance the establishment of a China-Canada free trade zone. Canada has seen a rush of exports to China amid the U.S. trade war with Beijing from April to August of 2018. According to Statistics Canada data, the value of Canada merchandise exports to China rose 23%, a surge of nearly $2 billion over a period that coincides with the period of greatest tariff escalations between the United States and China. You know? So this is beautiful, man. This is beautiful. The Most High is gonna is a he's surely avenging us of this place, man, known as America. You know? Hey, so with that, just thought I'd bring this out to the Akim. Stay tuned, keep your eyes and your ears open. As Yahweh Shai told his disciples, man, watch ye and pray that ye enter not into temptation. I was going to find it, but, I just quoted it. Hey, so with that, shalom to the elect.